Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, The Simple Quiet Life. My name is Angela, and today I'm going to take you on a little journey of sewing. This is a project that I've been wanting to do for quite a few years. I have these curtains that I have hanging between two rooms of my house, between our living room and what we used to call our schoolroom when we homeschooled. And they're just long curtains that separate the two rooms at a doorway. When I bought the curtains, they were too long for the doorway. And I was in a hurry because, I was excited to hang them up. So I basically folded them and at the bottom and pinned them with safety pins. So I did start to baste them at one point and then just stopped. And this was many years ago. So we've lived in our house for about 23 years. And I believe I got these curtains when we first moved here. So you can see how long they've been hanging up. And so I decided that it's time for me to go ahead and sew the bottom hem of the curtain, just so I don't have to have safety pins in it anymore. So these curtains, I'll show you more in detail at the end of the video. They are a cotton fabric, and the color, if you can't tell from the video, sometimes the colors I know come out differently. They're like a light brown paper sack color. That's the best way I can describe it. Excuse me. On one side of the curtains are stripes that have sort of a deep red and mostly the deep red and some dark green. And you can see the stripes there that are facing up on my lap. And then on the other side are flower prints. So I normally have the flower prints facing the living room and the stripes facing what used to be our schoolroom. So here, as you can see, I'm just stitching up the hem, and I started by making the stitches really close together. I would say maybe 1/4 of an inch together. And then as I went along, I decided to go ahead and make the stitches wider. So I'm now making them about 3/4 of an inch apart, which is a little bit too far apart, but I think it's still gonna to hold and serve the purpose that I want for this particular project. Many times in our lives, I think we tend to have good intentions, but we put them off because we have other things in mind that we want more. And that's kind of what happened with these curtains. I wanted to hang them up more than I wanted to do the work that required making them nice. Just putting safety pins in them was my quickest solution to getting the curtains up. But now I just see that it's really more important to do the work. And scripture tells us in 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 11 that we should make it our ambition to lead a quiet life, to mind our own business, and to work with our hands. And it says that if we do that, then we won't be dependent on anyone, and that we will be respected in the eyes of outsiders. And so I just want to try to put that into practice more in my life. And I think one way to start is just by doing the work that needs to be done and taking the safety pins out of this curtain and sewing it up. It doesn't really take very much time. So here I'm working on the first panel This curtain has 2 panels, and I was working on the first one here on camera, and then I turned the camera off to do the second one. You can see the pins there, and I'm already almost to the end of the curtain at this point. So these are older curtains. I believe I purchased them at Walmart many, many years ago, and I've recently looked at the newer curtains at Walmart, and I'm just not really thrilled with what they have right now. Sometimes it is better to just use what we have that's older and make it nice, because these curtains are so nice. They're such good quality cotton, and a lot of the curtains that I've been looking at in the stores are really shiny. I'm not very much of a shiny curtain person. I don't really like shiny fabric very much. I just prefer soft cotton fabric. And I know that it fades a little bit more over the years, but in this case, I think that it's perfectly fine for it to be a little faded, because these are sort of vintage looking curtains anyway. So I don't mind the faded look. So I'm going to go ahead and read while I continue the sewing. I'm going to read from a book that I have called The Old Time Art of Thrift, and it's put out by the Good Old Days magazine. This is an article about how people used to save money in the past by recycling old chicken feed sacks. The article title is The Original Recycled Sack Dress, and it's written by a woman named Nancy A. Burkham. Recycling containers isn't a new idea. It's a recycled idea. When I was a child in the 1940s, I wore the original sack dress, recycled from sacks that had contained chicken feed before they contained me. I wasn't fond of the chickens on our little farm. They pecked at me when I gathered their eggs, and they scratched out all the seeds I planted in the garden. But I did appreciate the fact that Dad had to supplement their diet with sacks of chicken feed. When it was time for more chicken feed, Mother and I went along to the feed store, where we wandered up and down the aisles lined with towering cotton sacks of chicken feed. 2 colorful sacks supplied enough fabric for a Sunday dress for me. One day at the feed store, I chose a feed sack with red flowers on blue. Mother agreed with my choice and said to the clerk, "I'll need 2 sacks in the blue background with red rosebuds." The clerk searched and searched, but she couldn't find a second sack of the same fabric. "I need 2 sacks or none," Mother said. "That's how much fabric Grandma has to have to make Nancy's Sunday dress." I joined in the search for sack number 2. Each of us took an aisle and looked up one side and down the other, but with no luck. We were about to give up when, from 2 aisles away, the clerk shouted, "I found it!" The sack was squeezed in at the bottom of a stack of 12 feed sacks. Finally, we got the sack out and carried out feed for the chickens and fabric for the child. When the sacks were empty, Mother ripped out the seams, washed the 4 pieces of fabric, and ironed out the wrinkles. Meanwhile, Grandma and I browsed through the catalog until we decided on the dress style just right for the feed sack and me. Then Grandma laid a newspaper out on the floor and carefully cut a pattern to fit me. I don't know how she did it, but she never missed in her measurements. I soon had a recycled, original sack dress to wear to church until it wore out, or I outgrew it, and it didn't cost an extra cent. With today's inflation and the increase in litter, a return to fabric sacks might be one solution to alleviate our mounting woes. Large flour sacks of denim or permanent pressed sugar sacks wouldn't be added to the garbage heap when they were empty. They could be recycled into denim jeans and shirts. Sacks of plaid flannel, striped linen, or checked cotton could be containers for oatmeal, dry dog food, powdered detergents, and powdered milk. Just think how colorful the grocery stores would be. Some may not agree with my plan for ecology and economy. I'll admit it does have a few drawbacks. Someone in the family would have to enjoy sewing, as my grandma did. And we would need to buy products in large economy size, or wear mini skirts, mini shirts, and patchwork designs. But surely, with some careful planning, we could find a way to overcome the drawbacks of my plan. I was quite proud, you see, of the original recycled sack dress my grandmother made for me. I just thought that was so sweet. And recently I was in Menards and I saw some mini, I guess you could call it, flour sacks. They had grass seed in them. They were cotton flour sacks. Now, they weren't decorated, but I thought of the flour sack dresses that the little girls used to wear, and even the women used to wear a long time ago when the seed was sold in those. And these were neat because it was grass seed, but they were very, very small. It would take a lot of them to make a dress, but you may be able to make some socks or something with it. I don't know, but I may just go buy one of those for the fun of it. And I'm sure I can find a place somewhere in my yard to plant some grass seed. So, as you can see here, I am almost finished with the first panel. I'm finishing up the putting the knot in and sewing up the very edge. And then I'm going to show you here in a minute how the front of the curtain, so there we have the side I sewed up. The amazing thing is that the crease was so deeply embedded in the fabric that it was really easy. I didn't really have to put any more pins in it. It did get a little puckered up there, but I'm not really worried about that. I think that'll come out with time. And it was just because I put the stitches farther apart than I probably should have. So there's the flowery side. I just think that is so pretty. And I'm very happy with the way it turned out. And I'm happy that we don't have to have pins in it anymore. And sometimes it was easy to trip over because the pins weren't very close together. And here's the flower side of the curtain on the living room side of the room. And I'm going to go on through the curtain and show you the other side. There is the stripe side. So you can tell me in the comments below, do you like the flower side or the stripe side?